Ladies and gentlemen, our next final in the Blowers Jewelers National Squash Championships Manchester 2017 is the men's 45 final. Would you please welcome both players onto court? The first player, ladies and gentlemen, is making his debut in the over 45 final. When he was a PSA Tour player, he was ranked number 2 in the world behind the great Jansher Khan. He is the British Open Masters over 45 champion. Will you please welcome Peter Marshall? Ladies and gentlemen, his opponent, originally from Manchester but now based in Jersey, is the director of squash. When he was a PSA Tour world player, he was 14 in the world. He's 7 times a National Masters champion, a British Open Masters champion, and in 2016 became the World Masters champion in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome Manchester's very own Nick Taylor.
Well, good afternoon and welcome. It is afternoon, it's 3 minutes past 12. And welcome, and I'm not going to say to PSALive.tv, which is basically ingrown in me over many, many years, but it's very nice to be back after 7 years and 3 months to do a little bit of commentary on squash. And here we are at Sports City for the British National Squash Championships. And we've got 2 pretty much legends of the sport, really, 2 very well-known players here. We've got Nick Taylor, who's always been at the top, and he's currently the over 45s world champion. He's in black. And Peter Marshall, who was around a little bit earlier, sort of peaked a little bit earlier, you could say. I was looking up a little bit of history, and you know, Peter was world number 2. He was in the British Open final in 1995. This was before Jonathan Power, Peter Nicol really sort of made their names towards the late 90s. Peter Marshall was challenging Jansher Khan in that final, lost 3-0 there, but beat some very big names on the way through. These 2 guys have obviously played each other a million times in the past at various age groups, on the open scene with the PSA, and obviously also in the age group scene as well. I just had a little look around, and you know, just some selection of matches. They played each other in the final of the over 35s here 9 years ago, 2008, and Marshall won that one by 3 sets to 2, 9-4, 9-0 in the end. The old days of scoring to 9. And back in the British Open age groups as well, the over 35s, it was Nick Taylor who won that one 3-1. They haven't played each other so much recently. Pete Marshall hasn't played lots and lots of squash, but it's great to see him back. And we've got number 1 and 2 seeds here. David Campion went out in the semi-final to Mr. Marshall, and it should be a fascinating match. A famous backhand there, look at that. It's just lovely to see the backhand. I've got Jenny Duncalf here with me. Jenny, lovely to have you on board.
Hello, Adrian.
Hello.
Pleasure to be here.
It's a real pleasure to have you on board. And you know, you obviously, you know, these guys are a sort of generation ahead of you. So, you know, when you were making your way in the sport, these are the sort of guys that you'd have been watching at nationals and PSA events.
Absolutely. Both of these 2 guys were players that I looked up to growing up as an aspiring junior. I was lucky enough to have Peter Marshall stay at my house every now and again for coaching off my stepfather, David Pearson. Yeah. So I was very spoilt in that kind of situation. And then Nick Taylor, again, I mean, he's a local lad from around here. He's always here at the Nationals, and I saw a lot of him growing up as well. And they're both, as you say, superb English players, both represented the country. Yeah. Peter Marshall, for me, it's great just seeing him back on court. I mean, he's such a kind of icon of the sport. Yeah. I loved watching him play when I was younger, and just so interesting. The technique obviously is a standout, and just the focus and determination he always had was a great example for the youngsters. So it's good fun seeing him back on court, and yeah, it should be an interesting match.
Absolutely. And if you don't know the story, of course, with Peter Marshall, of course everybody watching this probably does, but you know, you could say that almost at the height, you know, Peter was possibly somebody who was going to just come in before Peter Nicol as a top player. And you know, once Janša was dropping away, Peter Marshall was looking to take that mantle, and then you were going to get some of these youngsters like Power and Nicol challenging him. And it was a real sad story that Peter got ill. He had a number of years off the circuit. He's written a book about it, the chronic fatigue syndrome, and you know, I think the book is called Tired or something like that.
Shattered.
Shattered. That's it.
Called,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Sorry, I'm trying to rack my memory there, but yeah, and you know, it is quite a sad story really that at the peak of his powers that he actually had to drop out, and he had a 4-year gap where he just didn't even pick up a racket.
Yeah, I mean, it was brutal, really. I mean, I was young, but I know all the players and experts at the time, and he was number 2 behind Janša, I think, 94, 95. Everyone was predicting him to be the next big thing. He'd lost to Janša. He'd reached the World Open final and British Open final, lost to Janša, but was definitely looking, I think, to take over that mantle. And then, unfortunately, yeah, got struck down with illness.
Yeah.
But I think one of the most impressive things, aside from all the success he had when he was at his peak, was his recovery after being out for those few years. He came back and managed to get back into the world top 10, and I think that shows says a lot about his character.
Well, it's that old saying, isn't it? Form is temporary, class is permanent. And you know, if you've got that class, and doing this, and I just don't think that I know of another top class player that has a double-handed backhand as well. Like, you know, as a top player yourself, you know, if you had to, you know, surely your whole body shape and everything to play a backhand would be totally different. And you can reach out for a backhand a long distance away. But if you're playing double, obviously Peter can play single-handed and will possibly play the odd one here. But just generally, surely your whole body, you know, David Pearson was coaching Peter Marshall, and probably saying, first off, lose that double-handed backhand.
I'm sure he's been told that plenty of times through his career, especially when he was a young kid, but I kind of like the quirkiness of it, and you know, that's the way he likes to play, and it's been extremely effective. I'm just glad I've never had to play against him, because from what I've seen, I wouldn't have a clue where the ball's going, and I'm sure we'll see quite a lot of deception, especially from that backhand.
That must be part of the unorthodox thing, though, isn't it? Is that you're used to shots playing and people's body shape, so you know what shot they're playing. So if you are against somebody who's got a very unorthodox backhand,
I guess
you've just nailed it. You don't actually, you're not 100% sure what shot they're playing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, even playing a left-hander can be quite tricky because you're not quite used to the setup of their technique.
2017.
A double-hander, yeah,
men's over 45.
Well, that's interesting. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that.
Nick Taylor to serve.
Squash is always
Peter
wonderful to watch.
Marshall
Lots of different styles, and
best
you know,
of
you've got a
5
game here
games. Lovell.
between two players who've played each other so many times. They probably know each other inside out now. And here we go. First point. British Nationals, sponsored by Blowers Jewellers, 2017. There we go, double on the backhand straight in there.
And Nick's straight away, he's such a stylish squash player, always easy on the eyes when you watch him.
Yeah, that was lovely. Little nice little boast here. Yep, just a second bounce. Early few points usually go a little bit quicker. They've all got adrenaline in their bodies. Just a bit of that nervous energy out on the system. I remember the last commentary I did was David Palmer, so that shows how long ago it was. I remember David saying, you know, always takes him 6 or 7 points, get that nervous energy out, and then you start feeling as if you're in a game. And so these early points are just, oh, well, that was beautiful. Really good play. You know, both corners.
Hand out, 1-1.
Marsh read that and was onto it early. Slight delay and straight down the line.
Taylor nearly got the nick on both sides there as well. It was pretty tight.
He's working that boast in well already in this match. I think that's something he'll be looking to catch Marsh out a bit flat-footed there moving forward in those first few rallies when you're not possibly as electric as you would like to be.
Yeah. And of course, you've got to remember this is the over 45, so these sort of shots are going to be harder to retrieve as well. I watched a bit of the over 70s earlier, and you know, it was shots towards the front of the court were winning time and time again. And
I can imagine, yeah, lots of drops and angles going in there.
Oh, lovely deception. Taylor's there. Nick obviously keeps himself well in shape. He looks like a squashing jersey.
Yeah, I've never been down there, but I would like to get down there one day. I hear he's got a really good setup down there. He's done great things. There's plenty of juniors playing, and
Yes, let's.
Yeah.
gets a lot of
2-1.
publicity.
I love the super slow-mos here. You just see everything in a simple let there. It's been interesting, you know, sort of being away and then sort of seeing refereeing and seeing how things. And you know, we had a few messy games yesterday. We had a few, you could say, interesting calls from time to time, which you know then tended to. I think Alison probably is feeling a little bit sore this morning. I mean, Sarah Jane Perry barred into it on more than one occasion. Oh, what a shot!
Down.
Nearly got it.
Great rally that was, and Nick Taylor puts in a flying. Is it on his feet up in the air when he plays his
3-1.
shot? Oh my goodness, that's a little bit of a that's a Vamier Short type shot there.
It was almost.
Well, Nick's obviously feeling very confident, and
Yeah, he's doing well at peppering those front corners and trying to get Peter Marshall to bend down low. Can be slightly awkward at times.
Thank you.
yeah,
And out 2-3.
Nick putting his hand up there. Well done to him. Of course, Peter's playing a lot of double-handed forehands as well in here. We're seeing that occasionally.
Yeah, he mixes it up a little bit with the
Stroke
single
to
and double.
Taylor. Stroke to Taylor. Hand out 4-2.
Yeah, definite stroke there. Ball popping out. Just a matter of millimetres, this sport, isn't it? You know, that could have been a killer shot as it is. It went into the nick between the front and side wall, and it's straight out back at him. There's nothing you can do apart from just listen for stroke.
Stroke to Taylor.
Yeah, same
Stroke
again,
to
other
Taylor.
side.
5-2.
You know, so Peter's his shots coming in here. You know, he's given 2 strokes, so he's losing a lot of points at the front of the court. And you know, players of this experience. And this is one of the things I always learnt with top players, is that you're always analysing the match mid-game as well. So you're very aware you've lost points in this area. And Peter, you might see him now play a few down the line instead of going short in these sort of situations.
Yeah.
Like there, changing the
Down.
shot.
Hand out.
But Nick's definitely got a game plan here of
3-5.
putting him into the front. Marcia just looked a little awkward at the front. Just hit the boast on the previous rally. Nick's wasn't actually that great, but Marcia slightly collapsed on the ball and didn't quite make the most of the opportunity again. Oh, he got that. Ooh,
He wants down.
Ball prepared good from here.
that was a great pickup if he got that.
5.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to get it. Here we go. Oh, yes,
That
it was down.
That was down, but Marcia's pickup from the boast before
Oh, I see.
he got that one.
Yes, you're right.
He's just warming up, maybe.
Yeah. Marshall's trying to put in a tiring boast at the front. How he's
And
a bit of fortune there for Peter, and he acknowledges that to Nick.
5-all.
This comes out at a strange angle here, and yeah, good start, isn't it? 5-all.
Yeah, not too much in it.
And now we're starting to settle down to some normal squash now. The adrenaline's gone a little bit, and they're into normal play. Yeah, Nick's definitely got a boast tactic here, hasn't he?
He
That's 2 in a
has.
row there. He wants Peter, who's a bit taller, and obviously for the taller players, just digging down at the front, so a bit longer to reach.
Yeah, Nick's got a lot of skill, and he'll be looking to try and stop Peter Marshall's movement and try and let his body sink into the floor before whipping in a little boast or holding and putting him deep again. But Marshall's straightening up nicely here.
15 shots in a row down that backhand side. Just giving each other a bit of training. Now can Nick finish here? Goes long.
Down.
Good play, good rally that was. One thing, Jenny, you played on this court. One of the things I've noticed, many things that have changed, like
5.
loving the lines and the colours. But one
Left
thing that's
side.
interesting is the lights. That when the ball goes quite high, it actually goes into darkness. And you know, you see a shadow. Does that affect you as a player? Do you sometimes lose the ball up there when there's a
I
light?
definitely was the other day.
Yes, left. Yes, left.
We are quite used to it. I mean,
Yeah.
6.
we play on glass courts a
5.
lot on the PSA World Tour, and the lights are generally always bright. You're going to get some courts that are brighter, and this one is especially bright. The lights are extremely glaring, so if you can get that height and the lift, it's extremely effective. We saw that Nick struggled to read the ball on that last shot.
Yeah.
So you can't take the eye. It sounds silly, but you cannot take your eye off the ball for 1 second when it's high up in the air.
Yeah. Good shot from Marshall there. And
Stroke to Taylor. Stroke to Taylor. Hand out. 6 all.
Yeah, Peter was struggling here all the way. He played one loose shot, and well, in this sport, it went through his legs. I think that's a fair stroke, isn't it?
I think it is. Not too much to argue with there.
If Nick had tried to play, that could have been pretty painful. So.
This court is slightly different as well. Here at the National Centre, we've got 2 glass courts for this event, which is superb for national championships. And I know Peter Marshall played a semi-final on the other court, which is quite a lot faster off the front wall. I'm not sure what court Nick played on, but I'd imagine it wasn't this one. So they'll both be adapting to the different surfaces and speeds off the walls as well.
Yeah. Very nice move from Marshall.
Yeah, I think that's an area
Yes,
he's got some joy out of this first game, as the
all.
front backhand. He's pretty deceptive there.
Right side, please.
It was almost as if Peter was sort of half expecting the short one, and he was, you know, sort of a half step ready for it, and so he was on the ball very early and then put Nick into trouble. And maybe Nick might have just sort of noticed that and be thinking, right, maybe it's time to just change things a little bit, not go short all the time.
Yeah.
You just feel that Peter's starting to boss the
Yes,
volleys
left.
a bit more, don't you?
Left.
He's
Six,
just sort of
all.
getting that bit of control. His shots are tighter.
Yeah, he's definitely more accurate than he was at the start.
Yeah.
Credit to Nick, he came out firing, started really well. Positive. Yeah, it's too good.
Yeah.
See the reaction there, the fist pump. Knows that was a big
7-6.
point.
If
He's
you
onto it early. Little bit of a head fake.
Peter knows he's played a loose one. If you're going to play a loose one, like, that's a really good one.
Thank you.
And in fact, Nick's holding his
Hand
hand up.
out. 7 all.
Let's see this one again. Yes, just. I love that replay. You just see the second bounces so easily.
Yeah.
Referee was no names mentioned, but one of the refs said, I wish we had this on the PSA, because there's a few players I know.
We do have it on the PSA.
Yeah? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I suppose they don't get it live, do they? Because the video review system and everything. So you have to go to review to appeal it, and then if you have to know that the other players hit a second bounce.
Yeah, it's still at times inconclusive, though, unfortunately, on the replays.
Yeah.
Yes, left.
It's going to be a
Yes,
safety
left.
let.
7 all.
Previously, it's just been the video review for decisions,
Yes.
as in lets and strokes, but just starting this year at the Tournament Champions, we brought in the video review for double bounces and
Right.
up or down on the tin.
Great, absolutely.
But
Yes,
it did
yes,
get
left.
slightly
7 all.
confusing, and
Mr.
I
Marshall,
think the
please make
refs
more
and the
effort to
players
clear
were
the ball
both trying to
and
get
allow
used
your
to it.
opponent Yes.
Just learn it, yeah. Just getting used to it, I suppose. But it's got
Yes.
to be a good thing, hasn't it? You know, we had one with Alison where Sarah Jane Parker hit a serve, and it actually hit the N in championship, so it was above the line. It was just hit the top of the N.
I remember.
And Alison was convinced it was below,
And
and the
then she
referee
hit-
said, "Well, let's do a let," and
It
you know,
shouldn't
within
really be
seconds we had it. Yeah, and it should have been as it was. Sarah Jane won it anyway. But Nick again, that short shot
8-7.
from Marshall pays dividends yet again here.
8-7.
Yeah, well, the
On
tables have turned on the backhand boast, haven't they?
Absolutely.
Marsh taking a leaf out of Nick's book there. A couple of times now, he's got Nick scrambling to the front.
Yeah. This is perfect, isn't it? That you know, you're seeing Peter who seems to be very controlled, very tight squash, and Nick seems to be having to work harder to stay in the rallies. Nick's having to move. You're feeling that Nick's having to move more because Peter's playing such
9-7.
tight shots. And
Yeah, just needs to be a little bit careful of not going short too early, especially into that backhand area where Peter has got that deception.
yeah. 9-7, 2 points away from this first set. Taylor was 5-2 ahead, so that's 7 of the last 9 points have gone Marshall's way. He really has.
No lets. No lets. No lets. Hand out.
No. Your opponent didn't cause the interference, it was you.
Yeah. think that's a good call, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with the
Hand
ref.
out,
It was
8-9.
the hold from Nick, and Marsh slightly went, his body shifted slightly in the wrong direction and created his own interference, unfortunately for him.
Yeah.
That's a good point to pull back though for Nick.
He was so sure that Nick was going to go down the line.
Yes, let 8-9.
And yeah, the key thing was Nick wasn't even in the way. Nick was the wrong side, so claiming a let there is cheeky, I suppose. Okay,
It's always worth an ask, Adrian.
Yeah, you never know.
Stroke to Marshall.
That's
Stroke
fair
to
enough.
Marshall. Hand out.
Touche, really. I think Nick had one on the
8,
forehand earlier where he
Bengal.
left it.
If you're going to leave the ball on the tee, you've really got to be well away, haven't you? You've almost got to be a yard away, knowing that you're probably going to lose if that guy, if your opponent plays a good shot.
It's funny, yeah. I mean, how many
10-8.
years Nick's been playing, and all of us, we can't help but do that extra flinch forward and just
Yeah.
walk into the swing.
10-8, game ball here for Marshall. It's been a very entertaining first game here. Just selected it as a bonus game here on the England Squash streaming. Hope you're enjoying the coverage here. The England Squash YouTube channel. Lovely rat-a-tat.
Lovely touch at the front.
Yeah.
There's a chance.
Not up.
Oh, what a great rally. Well, you just know you've got quality players.
11-8.
When you've got two players
Going
doing the
to
rat-a-tat
Marshall.
like that, both.
Marshall leads by one game
And
to
Peter
love.
gets the nick there as well. Peter Marshall leads 1 game to love here. 11-8 in that first set, and yes, pretty enjoyable, Jenny, isn't it, to watch?
That was, yeah, it was great. I mean, Nick came out, I think, the more positive and more attacking of the two, but Peter Marshall, I mean, the legend that he is, he's never going to panic. He's not stressed. He's out there enjoying it, but still competitive. And then in the end, I think Nick just overplayed the front a bit too much, and Marsh, especially in that front backhand side, is definitely getting a lot of joy there with his deception.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that little rat-a-tat at the front. How beautiful it was to see that. Just as a squash sort of enthusiast, you enjoy little things like that.
Oh, yeah, everyone loves a little
aesthetically it
counter
looks brilliant.
exchange at the front, don't they?
Yeah. You don't get them very often, so to see, 3 or 4 little touches at the front of the court like that, backwards and forwards is just nice to watch anyway, from an artistic point of view, if nothing else.
Of course.
Just quickly, we're just chatting about, the PSA side of things and refereeing, and I was chatting to one of the referees who tells me that there's probably a move going towards a single referee again now, with a video referee as a second official back in the truck or wherever
15
it is.
seconds.
Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that is correct. Again, that was brought in at the Tournament of Champions, the first World Series event of this year. They're constantly trying to find ways of improving the fluidity of the squash, basically. We don't want too many stoppages, but at the same time, something like the video review does bring in a bit of interaction with the crowd, and they quite enjoy that.
Yes.
So yeah, at the moment we're going with one referee and then the video referee out in a truck somewhere, hiding from everyone.
Well, I always remember, when it moved towards the 3 referee system, and I always remember, and I'm sure you've heard this argument, that actually that sort of weakens the central referee's control of a game. So if you see one player trying it on a little bit, could be anything, and you as the central referee going, all right, yeah, I'm stepping on this. Quite often that central referee could get overruled by possibly some junior referees who aren't realising what's going on the court.
Yeah, well, I think it's a case of, I personally
Marshall
think that
leads
the
by
3
1 game to
referee
love.
system doesn't work in certain countries as well.
Double.
No disrespect to certain
Don't need
countries,
to mention
but
any. Yep.
there's times you can play in Timbuktu and you've got a decent central referee, and then you've got 2 side referees who obviously can have the majority, and they may not be experienced or on the same wavelength as the experienced central referee.
Yeah.
So for me, I think moving forward, it
One
should
love.
be a case of quality over quantity,
Yeah, yeah.
and try and get a small group of referees all on the same wavelength
Who are specialists.
who know what they're doing.
Yeah, and there are some absolutely superb referees out there. Sure. That's lovely play. Again, 2 early
out.
points at the front of the court. And
1-1.
this one goes the other way, so
Yeah, short little backswing from Nick there. The flick of the wrist across the court.
very enjoyable final this is. And their records against each other, they've both beaten each other on a regular occasion. Obviously form is always up and down. And
Down.
Just the top of the table.
Hand out. 2-1.
Yeah, he's just missed a couple of those on the backhand volley.
You know, Nick stretched for that one, and it just shows the quality of the match. That some people would have just let that and go around the back and play the shot. Nick's gone for it.
Yeah, it's good to see. He's trying to take it early.
Yeah.
He's trying to put Marsh into the front and then look to attack the returning shot.
Wonderful Nick there from Peter. And there's the clench. This means something to both of them, isn't it? Peter Marshall clenched his fist there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's great to see them still playing.
Yeah.
So many players
Marshall.
retire and don't continue, so it's a real treat for
Very
us
straight on that. Don't allow your
spectators
opponent access.
to watch them here in this final.
I warned your opponent, and then applying the same criteria to
Look
yourself.
to Marshall there.
You've had an
Nick's
explanation.
worrying that because he looked as if he'd cleared.
I think that was very generous.
Yeah.
Given the string, okay.
He's had a
that's
bit
what-
of a shock of that.
Maybe video review next. If they do bring in video reviews for non-PSA events, I think because there's no doubt, you know, the system that's in place here, we're seeing the replays here. There's no doubt that could be used for video review if need be. A referee could be sat.
Hand out.
Nah,
Yeah, I think that would be
2-4.
overruled.
that would be, yeah, for sure.
Turned.
Anyway, Nick's a little bit of anger,
Nice
and
and
that
tight.
was mega tight, wasn't it? 2, Marshall leads.
Good work down the backhand
Yeah.
from Peter.
It's his shots that are really making Nick very hard to do.
Yes, lads. Yes, lads.
Punished for a loose one there, and I think
Two,
Peter's quite happy to
four.
get away with a let on that. Where's the loose one? You know, you
Yeah,
sort
it
of
was. It wasn't.
playing a shot from mid-court. You don't want to give your opponent a shot like that from mid-court in the box. With, you know,
No, you don't.
any shot you
Ideally,
want.
you
No.
don't want the ball landing there.
That doesn't come up in trading, does it? It's interesting, you know, listening to David Pearson actually, and you know, in his commentary yesterday, he was talking about areas where you want the ball
Hand
landing.
out.
And, you know,
5-2.
I'm sure you know all this training that you know you're playing shots and you're looking at where the ball's bouncing because that's the. But of course, in match situations, sometimes
Doesn't always go to plan, does it?
Yes, absolutely.
Which is the beauty of sport and competition.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I was in the States last week, and anybody who saw the Super Bowl, that was quite.
I heard about it, but I didn't see it. It sounded
One of those
unbelievable.
amazing
Back.
sporting occasions where you know there was sort of
Yes,
4 or
lad.
5 amazing
Yes,
moments,
lad.
all
5-2.
happened in a row. That meant the team that never looked
Right
like
side,
winning
please.
suddenly won, and it was, you know, usually there's maybe one incident sometimes in a sporting occasion. This was maybe 4 or 5. All happened. It's amazing, just as a sporting spectacle. But back to squash.
No let.
No let. Hand out.
That's a little
3-5.
bit-
You're out
has
of
to be a video
position.
review as well, because you know, I think Peter.
Slightly harsh
Yeah,
there
you see
as well.
early on
There's no-
contact to the feet. You know, Peter hasn't got a chance. We can't see where the second ball bounces, but
Yeah, a few decisions creeping in this second game.
yeah. I think when you're at the top level, if there is an early contact, you know that these players are going to get that ball. You know, I know sometimes you hear the referees will say where the second bounce is. But, you know, at the very top level, you're confident. If you're at the front of the court and there's been a little one played, you're going to get it no matter what.
5.
It's good use of the angle by Nick there. He's not
Yeah.
used it too much in this game so far. So he's not overplayed it. And then it catches his opponent off guard. Marsh just slightly back in the court, waiting for length.
Down.
And
Again.
again,
Same shot again from Nick Taylor. Now this is
5-all.
actually quite a crucial point in this match now because Nick really can't afford to go 2-0 down. And we're midway in the second. 5-all. This is one of those moments where Nick has to step it up.
No
Get in
let.
there.
No let.
No let.
Go to the ball.
Oh.
6-5.
Okay, Johnny, this is one of those moments where I'm going to sit on the fence.
I mean, I think I would give that as a let, to be fair. I
Right side,
think
please.
it was a pretty good shot, but
Yeah.
there wasn't another line that
Direction.
Peter could have
Sorry,
taken
it's
to
left
get
side.
around Nick.
My mistake. Left side, please.
And Nick, if you look at Nick, he never moved. He
Big
didn't
five.
clear. Now, I know he didn't
Yeah, I
clear
don't think he was
because Peter had his
standing on the
arm.
ball deliberately. It's just a
Yeah.
basic traffic problem.
Yeah. Just, and that's what Alet's there for. Yeah. 6-5. Taylor leads.
It's a lovely shot from Nick.
Beautiful.
Crowd getting a bit more into it. They should have the
7-5.
majority of the support.
Yeah.
Being a local boy.
That was up, but it was down on the 10. He got it before the second bounce. 7-5 Taylor. Just, well, he has stepped up an important point. He was 5-3 down, remember.
Stroke to Taylor. Stroke to Taylor.
This is now this is where I think
You're not clearing the ball.
non-squash people get confused, because there's no difference almost between that and then the earlier one, which went the other way with a no-let, and then you get a stroke on that.
8-5.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously can be
8-5.
confusing. The Joe blogs on the street and also as professional squash players sometimes.
Yeah.
But Nick was really keen to jump on that
Down.
ball, and Marshall slightly slow off it.
9-5.
I mean, perhaps fairly harsh, but I could see where the referee was coming from.
Well, it's been an incredible run of points. 5 in a row for Taylor now. He's 2 points away from tying up this match. He has stepped it up when it looked as if it might be just ebbing away from him.
He's pushing up on the tee here, Nick, and trying to force the pace.
Nick gets the sideball nick there. Marshall stays in the rally.
Yes, let's.
Lots of gesticulating with the hands from both players. And that's the fair decision.
See, I'm not seeing a lot of
right,
difference
please.
between that and the no-let that was given just earlier with Peter and Nick swapped the other way around. You know, it's a pretty similar sort of shot, similar area. But so I've just been doing too much football commentary. You're always talking about, you're always bitching about the refs, aren't you? I do apologise, referees. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. I'll get that
And out.
service soon. That was a lovely shot from Marshall. Great length.
9.
Peter Marshall's going to hang in. 6-9. He needs a run of points now.
Marsh was saying yesterday his son's a keen footballer. He wasn't too thrilled about having to come up here and watch his dad play instead of playing in his own football team.
6-9.
Yes, the kids, you know, support the kids. Fortunately, my boy doesn't really like any sport. He hates it all. So
Oh, does he?
he just likes climbing and dodgeball. So
That's
you know, he's sort of active.
Not bad,
That's all
still
right.
active.
Yeah, very active.
Can always chuck a few balls at him if he's in trouble. You've got a good excuse there.
7-9.
Again, another. This is almost identical to the previous point. Again, Marshall from mid-court. He's hitting such low shots, isn't he, cross?
Yeah, he's found his weight of shot with that cross court really well. Such a hard movement to get down low and across Nick there, and that's the third one.
And again.
And out.
Well,
From
Option
backhand though, Nick's putting the ball in the
8-9.
wrong area. He has to, if he's going in there, it has to be far more clinical or just safer, like tighter.
That's quite scary, really. 3 points, almost identical in a row for Marshall.
He's done it again. Lovely shot.
That's up.
And Peter Marshall calls that one not up himself.
10-8.
You feel like he needed that
Game
point.
ball.
Just above the tin. Great shot from Nick Taylor to give himself game ball.
Very enjoy his squash match here. Nick Taylor, 2 game balls here. Giving up 1 apiece.
Down. And out. 9-10.
Now Nick glares at the
Game
officials
ball.
there.
You've got to
because
hit and move there.
I think there's a bit of confusion on
Yes,
court. I'm
I
sure you've had
understand.
these situations where you're
Still
not
made
really
an
sure
effort
about
to
the
play the
rules
ball,
anymore.
and
Because you're
unfortunately you
seeing
didn't.
sort of
I
semi-random
I think
calls
Nick's just getting a
sometimes.
little frustrated because at times Marsh is slightly slow. He's not deliberately getting in the way, but he's slightly slow coming off the ball. And Nick wants to play the ball. He's
And
trying
out,
to go through and
9-10,
play. And
game
there
ball.
he perhaps maybe could have asked, but he wanted. He tried
And
his
out,
best to get through
9-10,
and
game ball.
couldn't quite get it back. So I think that's why he's frustrated.
The referee nearly called get 10-all for a
Down.
second there, but well, it is 10-all now.
10
It's a dodgy
all.
error.
A player must win by 2
Sense
points.
that Nick knows he needs this game really.
Yeah. Nick staring at that Nick there area, but it was he should have hit the wall. There.
Peter's just so good, the same as the first. Stays calm, goes about his business. Head down, nothing
Really
too
big points.
emotional.
Yeah. Massive round this one. Oh, brilliant.
Yes, let. Safety.
It's
Yes,
the toss of a
lad.
coin, these decisions, I tell you.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at it as a
It's
stroke,
got to be a
That's
stroke or a
side,
no
please.
let.
Yeah.
It's either past him or he can't play it.
and I think Nick may have got away. Well, no, it's just
Yes,
a
let.
let, so it's still
10
10 all, but
all.
it's. That's you know, I know you've done this as a player. You know, you've sort of reacted to the referee, knowing there's a stroke against you. You're hoping to try and get a let out of it. And
Sorry, Adrian, but that was a peach of a shot. He's missed a couple of those and then he's got
Hand
it right
out,
just at the right
11-10,
time. Look at that.
end ball.
Feathers it in. Lovely shot.
absolutely wonderful. We'll
Fist pumped match.
Yeah. Game ball for Taylor, his third of this second, and that will do. And the racket breaks in
Oh
half.
my word!
Oh my goodness. You don't see this very
12-10.
often. Watch this.
Game to Taylor.
Oh,
1 game all.
hits Nick Taylor in the arm. And,
Wow.
And Peter Marshall, well, he's a man who's been on school. Look at him staring at the racket. He can't believe that.
I wonder how many times that's happened in his career.
How many times has that happened to you?
Once, when I was a
Once in
kid,
your
yeah.
whole career?
Do you know what? I'm pretty sure that's a Harrow racket, and not sorry, Harrow out, and there are other
There are other
racket makes
rackets.
available.
Oh, yeah, we're not
of
on the
course.
BBC. We're okay. We can say what we want.
But Amanda Sobey is a Harrow player, and the exact same thing happened to her just
Right.
recently.
Wow.
So maybe a dodgy batch out there.
Jenny, you've got to say, hats off to this man. Things were going against him, and he actually really doubled out. Like these shots, you know, the Peter Marshall playing those low shots, and Nick Taylor stepped it up when he needed to.
He did, but it was getting a little bit edgy. I think Nick did really well to win that game because mid to the end of the game he had a little spurt and played some really good squash, got the lead, and then Marsh just manages to stick in there and came back and managed to get it to a tie break. And I thought Nick was starting to look a slightly more edgy. Just the importance of clinching that second game may have affected him, but it didn't in the end, and he did really well.
Seen some lovely replays here summarising the second game, and you know these
15
two are playing at a
seconds.
very high level. You know, this wouldn't disgrace an Open semi-final, to be honest. You know, there's some real good play out there.
No, not at all.
And you know, obviously, as you get older, here's the one.
Actually hit Nick.
Yeah,
He's
he's not bothered. He knows he's just got the
just
point.
like, that happens all the time. Won the game. Off and a
Incredible.
rest.
We are in a strange situation. I always remember I used to call this a twilight zone occasionally with referees sometimes and decisions, and we are in a funny situation now, aren't we, Jenny, that I think the players really are not sure where they stand anymore in terms of balls coming in. They know what the normal rules are, but we've had a few topsy-turvy calls.
Yeah, it's always the way, to
Yeah.
be honest. I mean, how many times do you
1
play a
game all.
match and the referee
Taylor to
agrees
serve,
with you
level.
even 70% of the time? It's quite rare.
Yeah.
So it's nothing
Okay, it's just
nothing
standard.
too
You just get
strange,
used
but
to
there
it.
were quite a few decisions in that last game, but there's plenty of good squash aside from the decisions as well.
And I think they generally, you know, they do even themselves out as well. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's a
Down.
lovely little
Hand
drop
out.
from Peter
1 love.
Marshall. Took his time over it. You see the lunge there, space between his legs.
double-handed forehand there. You see, he's so strange. You know, and, I don't think there's anybody else. You know, double-handed backhand's rare enough, but you know, to go for extra accuracy, double-handed
Yeah, I
forehand.
don't know how he does it. I would just feel so restricted. I kind of feel like I need the release of the
Yeah.
follow through.
Yeah, so you know,
Shots.
more accuracy.
That's a
and less-
brilliant shot.
Yeah, superb. Got a great view of it there
2
from
love.
that low camera as well. Here's the other.
You
Here's
see
the other
the
side.
you see his wrist there. Completely drops his wrist.
I just wonder whether having two hands, you know, he's getting more accuracy. We're certainly seeing some incredible accuracy from him. Just give him that more better control. He obviously feels that.
Again, he's
Free
got a
love.
good line on that backhand cross court from the front. Nick really has to be careful
Right side, please.
of putting it into that corner.
Yeah. Yeah, you're seeing that shot executed so well, aren't you? That's 4 points in the last maybe 7 or 8 where Peter's been in that area and he's just played that into a dead area. Great match this is, really enjoying it.
Up.
And, you're just wondering whether Nick's exertions at the end of the second, he's just maybe just dropped his level a little bit now. You know, he put in a major effort to stay in the match and bring it back to 1-1, but now Peter's come in and Nick's just possibly going, and suddenly you're 4-0 down.
Maybe a little bit, but I think he's just left it slightly too loose in that front backhand. This is better rally for him, just going back to basics a little bit. Get some work into the legs of Peter. Not going short too early.
Stroke to Taylor.
Stroke to Taylor, hand down.
Mr. Marshall, you are not
Yeah,
clearing your ball.
He just got there. The ball did stay quite short, but again, his clearance off the ball, not quite good enough.
I think Peter's point was that possibly Nick was taking the wrong line of approach to that ball, but it was helped by the fact that it came out slightly funny out of the corner.
That was a better rally from Nick, though. He didn't go short too early, and then after hitting a few to the back, he put the angle in, and Peter's slightly slow moving onto it. Shot, that's a lovely shot. Very clinical.
Superb shot here from Nick Taylor.
See a replay of that.
Yeah, we'll watch this all
Gets
day.
the strings through it.
Yeah.
Right down the line.
No request for a let there from Peter. He knows. He's had to give it an applause. He knows it was a great shot. 2-4. Very tight rally here. Neither giving the other half a chance. Can't believe this is an over 45 match. Beautiful.
Oh, you got him. It was a tough one for both of them.
Yeah.
Marsh with his hands on knees and Nick taking a few gulps of oxygen there.
Yeah. Well, what a great rally that was. How many shots, you know, how many hits was that? Maybe 30 or 40?
Yeah, there were some tough movements in there as well.
Yeah, it was tight, 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 all the way. And yeah, both of them just need a little breather after that. Now you can tell it's over 45. But it is incredible to see such skill at this level.
Yes, let.
Yes, let. 5-2.
You know, in terms of just thinking over 45 squash, there's possibly, you know, this is probably
5-2.
one of the highest quality matches ever to be played at this level. Because, you know, you look at some of the top stars of the sport and they do retire early and they, you know, they don't go on and play age group. Whereas these are two players who've been at the top, or, you know, been up there, been in the world's top 10, 20, Peter obviously higher, and still playing. And it's not often that happens, is it?
No, it's not. People are usually sick of it by the time they're 35.
6.
Here we go. What a shot this is from Marshall.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, Nick's not too happy with his shot.
But these boys love the game, like most of us do, and I know Nick's always kept himself in pretty decent shape. He's always playing.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of age group squash.
And with such a physical sport, you know, ultimately, the knees, the joints, you know, it's difficult because it is probably the toughest sport out there in terms of the lower joints, isn't it, on the body?
Yeah, the impact on the body is massive, and it's something that you have to adapt to as you get older and tinker your training a little bit, especially if you want to continue into age groups.
Yeah.
The longevity of your playing time often depends on the level of impact and
7-2 from
how
the right.
much you put your body through and listening to your body.
7-2.
And there's no doubt that once, you know, once the knees have gone or once the ankles have gone, you know, you just cannot play at this sort of level. You know, this is very good, and these two are really fit guys, and you know, to able to. These rallies. What a shot from Taylor! Oh, This is unbelievable.
Hand
From the
out,
back of the
3-7.
court. Look at that.
Yeah, it was ambitious, but he pulled it off.
He was in trouble in the rally, and it's one of those that he went for the shot, he went for it, and beautiful. Peter Marshall's moving in, thinking, I'm going to have one here at the front, and he's watching a roller.
Wicked boast.
Nick Taylor again pulls off a winning shot.
4-7.
That was a double whammy of backhand boast.
Yeah.
Ripping it around the court.
Both times he was in a bit of trouble. He stood by the back door. Peter Marshall, he's having a bit of trouble. He's taking some rest. That's loose. He's now starting to have a little bit of the upper
picking
hand.
up the pace.
Yeah.
No let. No let.
No, that's
It's too tight to the sidewalk.
5-7.
Good spell this for Nick.
I think this is a good call from the officials. You know, look where that ball is, and Nick 3 points up from 7-2 down. 3.
Mr. Marshall, I would appreciate if you could speed up a little bit, please. I don't want to go code of conduct for delaying play.
He was what?
Yes, of course he was. I would still appreciate it if you could speed up, please.
I don't think he gave him. I think he's threatened
Thank you.
code conduct for delay of play. I don't think he actually gave him one.
Did he not? Bit harsh, isn't it, on the over 45s?
Usually you
Give him a
bit
break.
of a warning. Absolutely. Nick really has stepped this up. That would be a stroke.
Taylor.
Stroke to Taylor. 6-7.
Marsh needs to regroup a little bit here.
Yeah.
Nick's looking pretty sprightly.
4 points in a row for Taylor. Quite a few friends around here. Of course, he was based in Manchester for a long time. Played a lot of league squash here.
Yeah, he coached at this national centre for a long time as well. Set up his academy here. Now got his academy in Jersey.
7-all.
Second home, and it's 7-all. That one is too tight, too low in the corner. What a game.
Hard one to predict, isn't it?
Oh, no.
Oh, red.
Action.
That's been
Pickup
called
was
up.
good. Player let these from the right-hand side,
And rightly
7-all.
so. You know, I think we could. Well, we'll see. I'm 100% here. Yeah, it's not even close, is it?
The marker called it, and I've overruled him. We're playing a let.
I think, and
just
they're
one of
also
those
watching
things,
these
please.
replays here, so they'll have watched it on the screen and went, yeah. It's one of those moments where the marker wants to just sink into his chair.
7-all.
Gives them another rest anyway. To have a little chat with the referee. This was one of Jonathan Power's favourite tricks, wasn't it? When he used to play, when he'd had a couple of grueling rallies, he'd always find some reason to go
Open
and
the
have a chat with
door.
the ref,
Have a little chat.
yeah. Do a bit of entertainment. Yeah, you know, they used to love that TLC. Bit of experience. We might see a few more
Yes, mate.
chats with the officials coming in.
Yes, let. 7-all.
7-0, 1 game all, 7 games all. What a match this is. So enjoying it. British National Squash Championships of 2017, sponsored by Blowers Jewelers and the over 45s final. It has ebbed and flowed just like squash does.
It has. I think it was always going to be a close match. A tough one to call. Number 1 and 2 seeds.
Got it. You heard it on court. Big scream from Taylor. That's the shot that's been eluding him. Marshall doesn't get into that corner. What a rally. Oh! And you know, that's the first time in this match that Nick Taylor has led. Incredible.
Well, that was a big push from Nick. Stepped up the court and forced the pace.
8-7.
Serious physical efforts going in now.
Yeah.
Been on court for a while. Lactic acid will be starting to build, no doubt. You
Peter Marshall's really in trouble here.
can see the grimaces on Nick Taylor's face. Marsh often, I feel, I'm sure he is tired now, but when he was in his heyday, he even need to have his hands on his knees, and
Yes.
he kind of had that look about
It's
him
his style.
sometimes.
9-7.
It's the old Muhammad Ali on the ropes, isn't it? Make it look as if you're dead, and then suddenly you're up for the rally.
Well, what a turnaround in this game.
Yeah. That is 7 points in a row for Nick Taylor. chance here for Marshall now. Plays it well. Taylor's there. Incredible recovery from Nick Taylor. And he's got Marshall in trouble.
He's on the run. Oh, it's too good.
Peter Marshall wants a let here. He's not going to get it.
10-7.
Not sure what he wants to let forward. Wasn't even close to contact on the way through.
Marshall's hitting some nice straight lines down the backhand there. And then he just put a boast in, which is slightly the wrong shot choice. And Nick really wants this game.
What a run this is. 8 points in a row for Nick Taylor.
He's got it.
That was a double hit. And it's 2 games to 1. Nick Taylor, he's beaten his heart there. What an incredible comeback that was from 7-2 down in this game. And he's gone 11-7. Jenny, that's incredible, that third game.
It was a huge effort from Nick Taylor. Did so well. You could see him physically have to work hard, and he really G'd himself and pumped himself up. And Marsh, unfortunately for him, he didn't quite respond. I don't know if he recognised the surge from Nick Taylor, but I'm sure he did. But he just didn't quite have enough to stop it and stop that shift in momentum, and to push through like that all the way to the end was an extreme effort.
Yeah,
from the Manchester man.
Some absolutely superb points all the way through. I just love it. Actually, thoroughly enjoying it. You know, these are sort of moments where, you know, it's not actually work doing this, is it? This is actually just really enjoyable. Talking about a top-class game, and you can see from the crowd, it's quite a big crowd coming. You know, they've looked at the draw and they've seen there's a big match on here.
Yeah, these are big names in the world of squash, and it's definitely a draw card.
Yeah. And you know, look at that. Now that was probably one of the turning points, wasn't it? It was 7-2, and Nick Taylor played that shot from the door.
Yeah.
Took a risk. He hunted the Nick. He got it, and suddenly that was the moment where there was a sea change and there was a momentum change. And Nick pulling that off, you know, that may have not gone, and Peter would have just got a straightforward shot at the front of the court, and it could have been Peter 2-1 up. That paid off.
Absolutely.
Suddenly he got momentum.
He got a couple of quick winners, and then he really pushed up the court and put the pressure on Marsh.
And it is weird, isn't it, this game? You know, it is the case. It always has been with squash. That it is about momentum, and you get a couple of things go your way, and suddenly you're bullied up. Peter's a little bit off. For goodness sake, I've nearly won that point. I should have won that point, and he's just pulled one out of the hat from nowhere. And suddenly the seesaw swings your way.
Yeah. It's very much a mental game, isn't it, as well?
Yeah. Well, you've got to say, if there were
Taylor
bookies here,
by 2 games to 1.
Probably going to put
Taylor
Taylor's at 2-1 on
Lowell.
now, because he's everything. Momentum is going totally his way, and certainly after that serve, Peter missed the return. It looks like Peter maybe has hit the physical wall at this moment.
Yeah, I wouldn't count him out just yet, but we shall see.
You'd have a quid on Peter at 3-1, would you, at this moment?
Yeah, you offer him.
Or maybe with Nick Taylor 2-love up here. There's the shot, but Nick's in. You know, he just suddenly looks to be a little bit more sprightly, doesn't he?
He is, yeah. He's got the spring in his step.
Just lengthened a little bit now.
Yes, let's.
Nick's wanting a stroke, but they'll just give a let there. Yeah, close. More of a stroke than a no-let, that's for sure. 2-0. Taylor. Well, he's really had to work for this to get to this situation.
He's moving well, Nick. He read the forehand drop, didn't he? And straight in. Nice little touch on the counter.
Yeah, he's just looking at sort of 20% more mobile at the moment, and that's the key in this match. And you know, you feel that Nick knows what he needs to do to win. Whereas Peter at the moment, I think he's a little bit out of ideas, isn't he? He's playing his shots, and it's all about what Nick can do. And there's another length shot from Nick.
All off.
Normally, well, he's been winning at the front of the court. This time it's right in the back corner. 4 love.
Yeah, he's looking good, Nick, physically. Lovely touch. He'll be on to that now. I think he's starting to enjoy himself on there.
That's an outrageous boast he played.
Lots of variation.
No.
Wonderful.
And out.
Absolutely wonderful. And Peter Marshall are now,
1-4.
well, I think it's his turn to be sort of staring a little bit into the abyss here. This is where Nick Taylor was at 7-2 down in the second. That Peter Marshall now, he's looking at the scoreboard thinking, I've got to do something here quickly or this match is over.
Good. Quick off the mark, and then the dexterity of the wrist.
And out.
Just flicking it, sending it
5-1.
straight down the wall. Short backswing, almost comes over the ball. Sends it down the line. Nicely done.
Nick's halfway there, Nelly. 5-1 in the 4th set, 2 sets to 1 ahead. A really high quality match.
Yes, left. Yes, left. 5-1.
Again, Peter getting that shot almost from mid-court, but this time Nick's there. You know, there was 3 points in a row that Nick couldn't retrieve that ball back, but a few times Peter's had that shot again, and Nick's managed to get it back.
And the difference in the players physically there, I think if that was Nick's opportunity to hit the ball on the forehand, he'd have probably looked to step in and volley it.
No left.
Whereas Marsh
No
maybe
lets.
not feeling as
6-1.
energetic to take the ball early. He let it drop and played the let.
And that drop was certainly too good there from Taylor. 6-1 ahead. And Peter Marshall really has to,
It's a
Down.
gift.
yeah.
Hand out.
Just
2-6.
what the Marshall campaign needs at this moment in time. See if you can gather anything from that error.
Thank you.
Bit of a rest at least.
So 2-6. Marshall has a few
2-6.
few people walking around in the back. Halfway down the
Hand out.
That's so
Lovely
good.
skill from Nick Taylor.
7-2.
The delay and then a little dinky drop.
50 minutes on the clock. It's been pretty intense
Down.
all the way through. I think it looks like Peter's just hit that wall now, doesn't it?
8.
Yeah, the wheels
2.
are coming off slightly from Peter. But what an effort in that last game from Nick Taylor to turn it around.
Yeah.
Down. Hand out.
Mistake from Nick, fairly rare. We got a women's final at 3
3-8.
o'clock. Laura Massaro up against Sarah Jane Perry, and men's final coming up at 5 o'clock. Nick Matthew against Joe Lee. So
Nick's buzzing around the court now.
his confidence has bolstered as well, seeing that Peter's looking a bit slouchy, isn't he? And
A fair bit of adrenaline pumping through those veins right now. He's
Yeah.
got the title in his sights.
it's one of those moments, isn't it, Jenny? You've seen your opponents hitting the wall a little bit. You're 2-1 up. You've got a bit of a lead in the 4th, and it's like, right, this is it. Step it up.
Marshall.
Absolutely
Stroke to
put
Marshall.
everything into this
Hand
game.
out.
Yeah, he
That's
doesn't
right,
want to
correction.
over-enjoy it, though. He
4,
needs to
8.
remember to be clinical when he gets the chances. Doesn't want to start, sounds silly, but enjoying the rallies too much.
Yeah.
If you've got a chance, you want to put it away and get off the court as soon as possible.
Right, Jenny, you know, he's just dropped 2 points in a row there, and you know, he just felt that there was a little bit of Nick enjoying himself coming in. And yeah, he's called a double hit there, so that's another point for Marshall.
5-8.
You always love to see the honesty, don't you, players when they do that. Like, the referees didn't call it. He knew he'd double hit it, and he just stopped playing.
Yeah. Too good.
Handouts.
Well, the rallies are certainly a lot shorter now.
9-5.
There's no doubt the physical efforts in this game have really told on these two players, particularly Peter Marshall at the moment, who's looks to be fighting for air. Wonderful game this has been.
I'm sure Nick's little boy, Charlie, will be watching avidly, his dad, cheering him on. He's a budding junior squash player. I'm sure he'd like to emulate his father.
Yeah. Oh, well, sidewall nick there from Taylor, and there's an apology. Pat on the back on the
5
Peter Marshall.
match ball.
Well, 10-5. This is it. 5 match balls for Nick Taylor. Where did that come across? Suddenly a couple of quick points. Taylor has a chance for the title. Oh, he's done it. Nick Taylor wins the Blowers Jewelers National Squash Championship over 45s event. And what a game it was. 11-5 in the fourth. Superb match.
8-11, 12-10.
Just under an hour of play as well. But Jenny, the quality of that was something special, wasn't it?
Oh, it was brilliant. Well, you saw the way Nick even finished it off with that lovely little drop shot. Really impressed with his play and that physical and mental effort to turn around the third game. It's so good just to see them both on court, and Peter Marshall, they really have spoilt the Manchester crowd here. I hope Peter's not too disappointed, but yeah, many congratulations to Nick Taylor, the local man, who I'm sure is absolutely thrilled.
We're just going to hear, I think there's going to be a conversation. Andy Nickis and Nick probably know each other fairly well by now, so this will probably be quite a nice interview. Let's just sit back and have a listen to what they're saying. We'll come up and summarise just after this.
Nick, many congratulations. I know how much these Masters titles mean to you, but that was absolutely a cracking match. And of course, first a word about your opponent, Peter Marshall.
Well, I mean, you know, I've just got to be careful not to be in awe of Peter. I mean, he's my role model, still is. You know, and I had to sort of put ourselves on an evil playing field there today, and not show him any respect. I knew it was going to be a really tough battle, but yeah, I'm really pleased with that.
I think it's fair to say the second obviously was crucial. You certainly don't want to go down 2-love to Peter, and I think, you know, the pace of the game, you know, I think you were both feeling it a little bit at the end.
Well, yeah, I mean, Pete's been, you know, close to beating players in the top 60 in the world still. I mean, his backhand length is just brutal, you know, and, you know, the second was crucial. The third, I was 7-2 down. I mean, I really had to show some real toughness there today, and you know, I thought I was going to struggle with the pace because he's used to playing at that pace now. But you know, I feel like she's quite fresh now, which is great. So, yeah, brutal match, and you know, really enjoyed it. Really.
Sort of just taking you away from the national championships for a moment, because I think it's something that we have to mention. You reached the pinnacle in 2006 and became the World Masters champion in South Africa. So, I mean, that's an absolutely fantastic achievement.
Yeah, of course. I mean, to be world champion at any age group is pretty special. I've got to be honest, I think that result there overshadows the Worlds without a doubt. I mean, that was my World Open today. I think Pete was like that, whether he was going to play the Worlds. But in my head, this was my world title today.
Well, that's very kind of you to say, Nick. And what it does, it shows that you squash players have such mutual respect for each other. And what you've got to say is, ladies and gentlemen, you know, look at the crowd. You know, that is an absolutely fantastic crowd for a Masters match. And, you know, there are so many other players that can actually play over 45s. There's Simon Park, there's Alex Goff, there's Derek Ryan. So we could really have, you know, an event this time next year.
Leave it out, Andrew. Jesus. I mean, you know, it's tough enough with the boys leading up. I mean, you know, I wouldn't want a quarters, semis, and a final like that. But no, I mean, you're right. I mean, I mean, this event is, you know, I mean, I'll always play this event as long as I possibly can. You know, as long as I'm physically in good shape and healthy. You know, they're the best crowd in the world, always have been. And yeah, I mean, I'd love it if more players came out and played this Masters. And it's, you know, it's an amazing thing.
Like I've said, I know how much this means to you. Ladies and gentlemen, the over 45 champion, Manchester's Nick Taylor. Well done, mate.
I think that was one for you, Charlie, back home. What a crowd, absolutely loving it. What a game it was. And well, there's the summary.
Fantastic crowd, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your support for that match. I've got to give you 10 minutes of a very quick break, and then back in your seats for the men's over 35 final. Thank you very much.
Okay, try not to talk over Andy Nickius. He's got a bigger mic than us, so he probably drowns us out. But there's the summary of the score. And Jenny, just to summarise the match, 11-8 Peter Marshall. He looked pretty solid, didn't he, early on? He was playing great shots. And then, tell us in your own words, summarise the game.
He did. Well, it could have gone either way, you thought, in the first two games, but the end of the second really was crucial for Nick Taylor. He almost let his lead slip, but managed to clinch it on a tie break. And then started the third a little bit down, but again, a huge effort, and managed to turn that round, winning umpteen points on the trot to go 2-1 up. And then the Marshall wheels tend to come off a little bit. He was a little bit fatigued for that fourth game, and Nick just buzzing around the court, showing lovely variation, a lot of skill, a lot of style and deception, and it was just a little bit too much for Marsh to physically compete with. But you heard in his interview there, and you can see his reaction there, how much it meant to him. I think playing Peter Marshall, he said even this result has overshadowed his world title, so that tells you how much it's meant to him. So congratulations and well done both guys on a superb match.
What a wonderful image to finish on as Nick Taylor takes the over 45s, and it's been a bit of a blast. I've absolutely enjoyed it. Jenny, been great being with you.
Thanks, Adrian, you too.
It's always lovely. It's nice to be back doing a little bit of squash. I've been away for a little while doing a few other sports, but 7.5 years ago, oh goodness. Well, the game's pretty much the same, although I must admit, I do love these lines that are all lit up around the court.
Oh yes,
it's quite sexy, isn't it?
We're all modernised now, LED lighting.
It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Well, you're going to get proper people coming in for the next match. Jenny is here, you're here with Vanessa for the women's game?
Yes, that's correct, final. 3 p.m,
and
tune in.
And then I think it's a husband and wife team, I believe, for the final. I think James and Vanessa.
Yep, James Woolstrop will be in for the men's final.
They didn't have an argument last time either, so they did well. keep it behind doors. But yeah, Vanessa and James, husband and wife team. I believe I'm on standby if Vanessa goes into labour. She's literally a week away. She's looking quite big. So yes, hopefully you won't be hearing my dulcets for the men's final. If you do, you'll know what's happened. But look, Jenny, it's brilliant having you on board. What a great final that was. We are going to keep the stream running, but nothing will be happening on stream until 3 o'clock. I believe there is one more game going on here. We're not covering that match. So we're just going to have a bit of music, a little logo and a clock at the bottom, and we'll be all back and running for 3. Thanks for watching. Goodbye for now.